I hate snow. It's cold, and it's heavy, and it's irritating, and it gets everywhere. But for many of us, dealing with it is an inevitability. And even though the snow itself is irritating, there's something cathartic about removing it. So I'm gonna get myself in the winter spirit by melting some snowflakes.
Hey internet, so confession, I am a special snowflake and I'm proud. Seriously, I claim a lot of labels, my identity is very complex, and I'm not ashamed of it, because there's nothing to be ashamed about.
So when you say your identity is very complex, what you mean is it's unintuitive and probably not recognizable to a lot of people, or at least those who haven't been exposed to you previously. Why is this something to be proud of? I'm not saying you should be ashamed of your identity, but you're describing inconsequential or superficial aspects about yourself. And these aspects are relevant to no one but yourself, and anyone you're romantically involved with. Your identity describes what you are, not what you've done. It's not an accomplishment. There's no reason to take pride in these arbitrary characteristics about yourself.
This video is for so many people. It's for LGBT persons who want everyone to stop labeling everything because they think it divides the community.
What is the purpose of a label? The purpose of a label is to distinguish a thing from everything that's not that thing. That is necessarily divisive. Now, I don't consider gay a community, and nor do I think division is necessarily a bad thing, but if we're going to be hyper-specific, then yes, labels do divide the community.
It's for the antisocial justice vloggers who think the copious amounts of labels and genders out there are all made up and obnoxious.
Hello there.
And it's for straight people who are totally allies and don't care what you are, but just don't get why we have to place everyone in boxes. Why can't we all just be people?
You've already answered that question. You like being a special snowflake. You think that this differentiation between you and other people is a source of pride, and that makes you happy. So it's not that I don't understand, it's that I think it's petty, and also potentially dangerous.
So in defense of all the special snowflakes like myself out there, let me break it down for you. The single most fantastic thing about labels and identity words is that they are ours. Like so many other things out there, words are inventions. They're human designs, social constructs made by people for people to use as they like. This means that if you don't like labels for yourself, then you don't have to use labels. In fact, you shouldn't. Don't label yourself if you don't want to. End of story.
We're not quite done, because there is another side to this. Yes, you can identify yourself as whatever you'd like, but I'm under no obligation to identify you as whatever you'd like. Unless I'm Canadian. And thank fuck I'm not. As you said, labels, identities, words, they're tools made up by us for the purpose of communication. So if your identity is so convoluted and obtuse that it becomes a barrier to communication, I'm going to discard it.
And if someone tries to label you against your consent, set them straight. And if someone judges you for not committing to a label, that's their problem and they're being unreasonable.
A man is standing outside my house pissing on my lawn. Is he being unreasonable when he says I need to refer to him by his wolf name, Shadow? Or am I being unreasonable when I say, Steve, you're not a wolf? Or do you think I need to be set straight in regards to Shadow's identity?
You know that Tumblr saying, you mean, I'm not broken? It's referring to those lost and alone feelings a person may experience before finding their word. Then they stumble upon it and realize that word exists because there are other people like them who need it.
Finding other people like you does not mean you are not broken. And conflating community with wellness is dangerous. Since you brought up Tumblr, let's consider headmates as an example. Headmates, or multiplicity, is when multiple distinct minds take up a single brain. A non-insignificant number of Tumblrites think they are sharing their headspace with Loki and the Ninth Doctor. If someone with schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder stumbles upon Tumblr and finds people talking about headmates, it's not good for them to think there's nothing wrong with them. They have a problem and they need to seek help. You can still be broken even if you found a community that accepts you. In fact, that might be even more dangerous, because if you have a community that accepts you, you might be less likely to seek assistance.
If the person likes, they can delve into that word more and even explore its community. They can finally talk to others like them, people they can relate to who are going through similar things. Like labels or not, the right language can certainly help some individuals find homes.
And some of those homes can do more damage than good.
And sometimes pride. What used to be an isolating, confused part of someone's identity, why don't I find anyone sexually attractive? Everyone else has crushes and wants a partner. Is something wrong with me?
Before you write off that thought, consider this. Yes, something might be wrong with you. You might have a medical condition causing hypolibido, and you might be able to rectify the situation with medical intervention.
Can totally do a 180 and turn into a source of pride. Aromantic, loud, and proud, biznitches. And if a word can do that for someone, why would you want to take that away? Because you think it's unnecessary?
Because I think people might do more damage than good to themselves by following this advice. Taking pride in incidental characteristics about yourself, especially in regards to sexual preference or gender identity, might lead someone to pursue or avoid medical intervention that could have a huge impact on them. Understand who you are, but don't be proud of it, because pride can lead you to make stupid decisions. Take pride in the things you do, not what you happen to be.
Because you don't get it? Of course you don't. You never felt alone or misunderstood the same way that person did. Just trust that label makes them happy. That's like, easy.
I can understand someone's motivation for adopting a label, empathize with their loneliness, and still take issue with their label or the pride they derive from it.
The third reason labels and language are so great is because, like all other words, they are communication tools. They are concise little audible packages that quickly communicate personal aspects about someone to other people. That's neat.
This point becomes moot when the label becomes so intricate and complex that it reads something like,
Ashley, a very fluid queer person, comfortable using the words bi, pan, and multisexual interchangeably. I describe my romantic orientation as demi-homoflexible and my gender as questioning, but typically existing in the spaces between woman and agender. Words I'm currently experimenting with are non-binary, gender-neutral, bi-gender, demi-girl, gender-fluid, genderqueer, and gender flux.
That was not a concise audible package that communicated useful information to me. Now, I'm sure you and I could sit down and you could explain to me what gender flux means and how it's different from gender fluid, but if your identity requires a seminar in order to understand, it is not the pragmatic language tool you initially sold it as. Under basically no circumstances am I going to refer to you by that hyper-specific label, which in essence means I'm going to be misidentifying you. I have instead identified you as a gay woman. And if you think that unreasonable, as you've indicated was the case earlier in the video, that's your problem.
I guess that probably makes me a special snowflake, and I'm 100% okay with that, because all that means is I have an efficient and expansive vocabulary.
I would consider your vocabulary efficient if you could express the thought you were attempting to convey using the least number of words necessary. Now, seeing as your hyperspecific identity used lots of tautological and ill-defined terms, I would say your vocabulary is inefficient, but still expansive. But because I'm efficient, I'm going to express the thoughts inefficient and expansive using a single word. Your vocabulary is bloated.
Speaking of unfamiliar labels, what happens if you don't know someone's label or pronouns or identity and you assume incorrectly? Or maybe this happens, they correct you, and you don't know what their label means. You've never heard it before. Does that make you an ignorant, bigoted transphobe? Stay tuned for my next video to find out. Spoiler though, it doesn't.
But what if they tell me their label and I correct them? Steve's still not a wolf.